White woman stole black CEO's first-class seat then froze when he said, "I own the airline." Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. F-quote, "Off, that's my seat." The words sliced through the calm of first class like metal on glass. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. A white woman in a cream Chanel suit sat with her legs crossed, sunglasses still on, glaring up at the man standing before her, calm, tall, dressed in a black hoodie and jeans. He didn't shout back. He didn't move. He just looked at his boarding pass seat 2 amperes, then at her. Engines hummed under the floor. A passenger in row 3 lifted her phone. Even the air felt tight, like the cabin itself was holding its breath. His name was Marcus Reed. No entourage, no gold watch, no designer luggage. Just quiet confidence and a test to run a test of his own airline. The woman tilted her chin. "You must be lost, economy's that way." Marcus didn't answer. He studied her tone. He'd heard it before, the sound of certainty built on nothing. A male flight attendant appeared, polite but sharp. "Sir, there's been a mix-up. Let's not make a scene, okay?" That word scene, it always landed different when said to men like him. The woman smirked, leaning back in victory. "Finally, someone doing their job." Marcus handed over his ticket. The print glowed clear. Marcus Reed First Class 2A. The attendant barely glanced. "This looks printed. You'll need to move." Marcus's jaw tightened, voice steady as steel. "It's real. Double check before you regret it." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Marcus. He scanned the cabin's silent judges in tailored suits, eyes whispering, "He doesn't belong here." The woman spoke again, louder this time. "I said move. I don't care what your ticket says." A ripple spread through the rows. A young woman whispered, "Is she serious?" Another man muttered, "It's always the same story." Marcus exhaled slowly, a quiet storm contained, then said, calm but cutting, "This is my seat, and if you knew who I was, you'd choose your words more carefully." "Oh," the attendant scoffed. "And who exactly are you?" Marcus looked past him, eyes forward, as if he could already see the storm that was coming, and the silence that would follow it. The engines roared a little louder. Seatbelt lights blinked on, but no one sat down, because everyone in that cabin knew something was about to change. Nicole, the senior flight attendant, appeared from the galley, neat bun, corporate smile, and eyes already judging. "Sir, you'll have to move. That seat's assigned to Mrs. Linton." The white woman crossed her legs tighter, lifting her mimosa like a trophy. "Thank you, finally someone competent." Marcus stayed seated in the aisle, calm, composed. He slid his phone into his pocket, hands visible, tone measured. "You might want to check the manifest again." Nicole didn't. She turned to the younger flight attendant behind her, Mia, barely 24, first week on the job. "Honey, go verify in the system, but make it quick. We've got a situation." That word situation drew eyes from every row. A businessman in seat 1C looked up from his laptop. An older couple clutched hands. The cabin was shifting from luxury to spectacle. Mia glanced at the handheld scanner, then froze. The name glowed green. Reed, Marcus 2 amperes, verified. Her voice shook. "It's valid. He's supposed to be here." Nicole has said quietly. "Not now." Then louder, for everyone to hear. "We've had fake scans before. This man's refusing instructions." The woman in 2 amperes smirked. "See? I told you, he's one of those." Marcus didn't blink. He leaned slightly forward, voice low, calm enough to scare anyone listening. "You're making a mistake, and you're recording it live." 2 passengers raised their phones higher. Someone whispered, "This is going viral." Nicole called down the aisle, "Captain, we need security to gate 14. Passenger non-compliant." The entire cabin tensed. Mia looked horrified. "Ma'am, please, the system." Nicole cut her off. "That's an order." Marcus's gaze didn't waver. He had seen this theater before, years of bias dressed as protocol. He didn't need to shout to reclaim power. He just needed the truth to surface. He spoke quietly into his AirPods. "Rachel, mark the timestamp. It's happening again." Her voice came back steady. "Understood, I'm watching live." The engines hummed harder, lights flickered, and in that moment, every passenger realized this wasn't a mix-up. It was a mirror. They were watching how dignity gets tested, and how silence begins to fight back. Security arrived fast, 2 men in Navy uniforms, radios crackling, eyes sharp. The taller one stepped forward, badge glinting under the cabin lights. "Sir, you've been asked to move. Don't make this harder." Marcus didn't move, didn't even blink. His hands rested calmly on his knees, palms open. Nicole folded her arms, a smirk curling at the corner of her lips. "You see? Non-compliant." The woman in 2 amperes added, "Typical." Mia, the young attendant, whispered, "Stop, please." But no one heard her, or maybe they just didn't want to. The taller guard leaned closer, voice clipped. "Sir, I need you to step aside." Marcus looked up at him, steady. "What happens if I don't?" "Then we'll remove you by force." The cabin gasped. That word force shifted the air. A baby whimpered. Someone's phone light blinked on. Marcus leaned back slowly, voice dropping to something colder than threat, something final. "You lay a hand on me, and you'll lose more than your job." The guard hesitated, glancing at Nicole. She gestured impatiently. "Do it." He reached forward a touch on Marcus's shoulder. Just that, and that was enough. Marcus turned his head slightly, eyes locked. "You've just committed assault on an executive of Aurea Air." "Excuse me?" The guard stuttered. The whispers exploded. "Did he say executive? Wait, Aurea Air? Isn't that this airline?" Marcus reached for his phone, thumb tapping once on the screen. The speaker crackled alive, a woman's voice. Calm, crisp, professional. "This is Rachel Harris, executive assistant to Mr. Reed. You are currently being recorded on the internal channel. Proceed carefully." Nicole froze mid-step. The guard's hand dropped away as if burned. The entire cabin was watching now, phones up, judgment heavy. Mia's lips trembled. "I told you his ticket was real." Marcus rose slowly, every motion deliberate, composed. He didn't shout, didn't gloat. He simply stood, eye level with Nicole. "You just called security on the man who signs your payroll." The silence was thunder. Even the engines seemed to stall. Nicole's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Marcus straightened his jacket, looked down the aisle, voice steady. "Rachel, log this incident under bias escalation. Notify the board, and keep the cameras rolling." Rachel's voice replied, "Already done, sir." Mia exhaled, whispering, "Oh my God." Someone started clapping. One person, then another. And just like that, the cabin turned, because in that moment, the power shifted. And everyone knew who really owned the sky. Nicole's voice trembled first. This has to be a misunderstanding." Marcus didn't answer. He simply turned toward the cabin door, where the captain now stood tall, rigid, face pale. Captain Daniel Pierce, 45, 20 years in the air. The kind of man who thought authority meant he couldn't be wrong. "Mr. Reed," he began, voice cautious, "perhaps we can sort this out privately." Marcus looked at him, calm but cutting. "You wanted this public. You made it public." The passengers went dead silent. Phones were already streaming. Somewhere in row 6, a notification pinged number Aurea Flight 217 trending. Marcus tapped his AirPods again. "Rachel, initiate internal verification protocol." "Confirmed," she replied. "Flight 217 crew log now visible to the board." Nicole froze. Her tablet buzzed in her hand, red alerts flashing across the screen. "Compliance review in progress." "What's happening?" she whispered. Rachel's voice came through the cabin speaker, clear as law. "Crew members currently under audit, Nicole Harris, Brian Foster, and Captain Daniel Pierce. Incident timestamped and live streamed to corporate ethics. Daniels Yaflocht." "You can't do that mid-flight." Marcus turned slightly. "I can. It's my airline." The words dropped like a verdict. You could hear the click of someone's phone recording the sound of truth being documented. The woman in 2 amperes, the one who'd started it all, looked smaller now. She lowered her sunglasses. "You're serious?" Marcus didn't look at her. "You mistook silence for weakness. That's your mistake to live with." Mia stepped forward, trembling but brave. "Sir, I just want to say I'm sorry." Marcus met her eyes, softened just enough. "You're not the problem, Mia. The system that taught you to doubt people like me is." Passengers began clapping, hesitant at first, then louder. Daniel's face turned red. Nicole's hand shook as she tried to turn off her tablet. It didn't respond. Rachel's voice came again, smooth and absolute. Captain Pierce, you are relieved of command. Please return to the cockpit and await replacement crew authorization. He froze. You can't relieve me mid-air. Marcus's tone stayed steady. You relieved yourself the moment you chose bias over protocol. Gasps filled the cabin. Someone whispered, "This is unreal." But it was real, painfully, gloriously real. Marcus looked around the cabin, his voice carrying not anger, but clarity. This isn't just about one seat, it's about every place we've ever been told we don't belong. And for the first time that flight, the silence in first class felt like respect, not fear. The cabin no longer felt like a plane. It felt like a courtroom. First-class polished leather seats, silent witnesses, the faint hum of engines as background tension. Marcus stood near row 2, still calm, still steady. The phone stayed raised. No one dared to blink. Nicole tried to recover her voice. Everyone, please remain seated. This is getting out of hand. Marcus turned to her, tone flat. Out of hand? It only feels that way when justice finally lands. Murmurs rippled through the aisle. A young black father in row 4 whispered, "Say that again." His partner squeezed his hand. Captain Daniel remained frozen by the galley, stripped of command but unwilling to sit. Rachel's voice echoed again through Marcus's AirPods. Board confirmation received. All crew under review. Passengers advised to remain calm. The woman in 2 Ampere's Mrs. Linton gripped her champagne glass, voice small now. I didn't mean anything by it. I thought, maybe it was a mistake. Marcus didn't look at her. Mistakes end when accountability begins. Mia, the junior attendant, stepped forward, trembling but firm. He was right. His name scanned green. I saw it. Nicole spun toward her. You stay out of this. But Mia didn't back down. I've stayed out of things my whole life, not this time. Applause broke out raw, unscripted, human. A man in 3C shouted, "Speak your truth." The cabin came alive, no longer divided by rows or tickets. Daniel exhaled through clenched teeth. You've humiliated my crew. Marcus met his eyes. No, Daniel, they humiliated themselves. I'm just the mirror. The cabin went still again. Marcus tapped his phone, the speaker filled with Rachel's steady voice. Protocol 8 complete. Suspension orders issued. Crew credentials locked. Nicole's tablet went black. Daniel's comms blinked red. Mrs. Linton dropped her glass. It shattered quietly against the aisle carpet. Mia whispered, "Oh my God." Marcus turned to her and spoke softly. Remember this moment. It's not about revenge, it's about repair. He looked down the aisle, every face, every lens. You all witnessed what happens when bias hides behind authority. From now on, Oria Air won't tolerate it. Not in the sky, not on the ground. Someone began clapping again. Then another. Then the whole cabin. The applause wasn't loud, it was reverent, like a verdict delivered. And in that sound, something shifted. Not just on Flight 217, but in every silent story that had ever taken place 30,000 feet above the ground. Because for the first time, justice didn't wait to land. It took flight. The seatbelt light glowed again, but no one moved. The applause faded into a quiet that felt sacred. Outside, the clouds were thinning. The city lights below looked almost like forgiveness. Marcus remained standing, his voice low but clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your patience. You just witnessed a system correct itself in real time. The intercom crackled. Rachel's voice came through the cabin speakers, calm and absolute. Replacement crew confirmed. Landing authority approved. New acting purser, Mia Torres. Gasps echoed down the aisle. Mia blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. Me? Marcus nodded once. You spoke up when silence was easier. That's leadership. Nicole looked away, tears forming. But Marcus didn't gloat. He only said, maybe next time you'll listen before you judge. The captain's voice came over the PA, stiff, forced. Cabine, prepare for descent. The engines began their slow hum downward. Through the window, dawn broke across the horizon, gold light spilling over wingtips like a promise kept. As the plane leveled for landing, Marcus spoke one last time, not for the crew, but for everyone watching online. Dignity doesn't need to shout, it just needs to stand. He paused, then added softly, justice doesn't wait for the ground, it flies. The passengers erupted again, not in chaos, but in respect. Phones lowered. People smiled through tears. And as Flight 217 touched down, the sky outside glowed the same color as a man reclaiming his seat and his story. When the cabin doors opened, the noise hit like weather-flashing lights, camera shutters, a tide of reporters waiting at Gate 14. By now, the story had already left the plane. Clips from passenger phones were everywhere. Hashtags blazing across every screen. Number Aurea Air, number Seat 2, a number Justice in the Sky. Marcus walked out first. No security escort, no entourage, just quiet composure. Behind him, Mia followed in her new uniform vest, still stunned, still clutching her ID like proof that courage mattered. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Reed, is it true you fired the entire crew midair?" He stopped for a second, the cameras closing in. The flash reflected off his hoodie, the same one they mocked hours ago. He smiled, just enough for it to feel real. "No, I didn't fire anyone midair." He looked directly into the lens. "I grounded bias before it could fly again." The crowd went silent for a beat. Then a dozen more questions flew at him. Corporate crisis, PR spin, viral backlash, but Marcus didn't engage. He'd already said what mattered. Mia stepped beside him, whispering, "They want you to explain." He glanced at her, then at the cameras. "I don't need to explain justice," he said quietly. "You just watched it fly." Flashes popped again. That line hit every feed within minutes. The internet didn't just see a headline, it saw a moment. Passengers filed out behind him, strangers who had clapped, cried, and filmed history at 30,000 feet. One woman stopped beside him. "Thank you," she whispered, "for all of us who've been told to move." Marcus nodded once, eyes steady. "Then don't move. Not anymore." And as he stepped into the terminal, the cameras kept flashing. But this time, it wasn't spectacle. It was acknowledgement. The kind earned, not demanded. The kind that finally felt like home. The VIP lounge was quiet marble floors, glass walls, soft jazz playing like the world had already forgiven itself. Marcus sat near the window, watching the same plane that carried his story taxi toward its next flight. He wasn't smiling, not exactly, just breathing again. His phone vibrated a private line, board channel. He answered. "Reed." A voice came through, measured, executive, international. "Marcus, we saw everything. The footage is everywhere. You handled it perfectly." He leaned back, calm. "I didn't handle it for the cameras. I handled it because it's what we say we stand for." There was a pause, then applause through the speaker. He heard at least 6 board members on the call. "We've decided," another voice added, "to make this moment the start of a global initiative. Equality takes flight. It'll be on every Aurea jet by next month." Marcus said nothing for a few seconds. He just looked out the window, the sunrise reflected off the plane's silver wings, turning them gold. "Make sure it's not just a slogan," he said finally. "Make it a standard." "Already in motion, sir." He ended the call, setting the phone face down. Mia appeared in the doorway, still wearing the temporary purser badge. "They said you wanted to see me?" Marcus nodded toward the seat across from him. "Sit, you've got a story to tell someday." She smiled nervously. "I thought you'd be angry." "Anger doesn't change systems," he said quietly. "Accountability does." The lounge attendant approached with fresh coffee free of charge, no questions asked. Marcus looked up, gratitude subtle but real. "Thank you." And for the first time that day, someone served him without assumption. He looked back at Mia, then toward the tarmac, where the Aurea logo gleamed under the morning light. "Let's make sure that sky stays open for everyone." 48 hours later, the world was still watching. In a glass-walled atrium at Aurea Air headquarters, dozens of cameras pointed toward a single podium. Behind it, the company logo gleamed silver and sky blue, newly updated with a line beneath it. "Equality takes flight." Marcus Reed stepped out in a tailored black suit. No entourage, no teleprompter, just a folder in one hand and that same calm silence that had once unsettled an entire plane. The crowd hushed instantly. Reporters raised microphones, ready for apology or scandal. But Marcus wasn't there to apologize. "2 days ago," he began, "a passenger was told he didn't belong in a seat he paid for. That passenger was me." Flashes erupted. Murmurs rippled. Marcus waited for the noise to fade before continuing. "What happened on Flight 217 isn't just an airline issue. It's a reflection of something deeper, a habit of assuming who belongs where." He paused, scanning the room, executives, journalists, Employees, at Aurea, that ends today. He opened the folder, pulling out a single page. Effective immediately, all staff will complete new inclusion and leadership training. A cross-check system will flag bias reports in real time. And we're launching a $10 million fund to support equal opportunity in aviation careers. Applause erupted, unexpected, even from some reporters. Marcus didn't smile, he just nodded once. This isn't damage control, it's course correction. A journalist called out, "Mr. Reed, are you angry about what happened to you personally?" He looked straight into the lens. "No, I'm grateful it happened where the world could see it. Because visibility is the first step to accountability." He stepped from behind the podium, walked closer to the front row. "And to those asking if this is good PR," he stopped, leaned slightly forward. "Justice doesn't need public relations. It needs consistency." For a heartbeat, the room was still then. Applause filled it. Stronger this time, more certain. Reporters put down their cameras. Some even stood. Marcus ended simply, his voice calm but resonant. Flight 217 wasn't a scandal. It was a mirror. And from now on, every time you board an Aurea plane, I want you to see yourself reflected with respect. He left the podium to a standing ovation. Outside, the sun caught the logo again, the same gold gleam as that morning above the clouds. Because the world had just seen something rare, a man who didn't demand justice, he defined it. The headlines were everywhere. Black CEO turns humiliation into policy. Flight 217 changes the sky. Clips replayed on every network, that calm face, that single line. Justice doesn't wait for the ground, it flies. But Marcus had already turned the news off. He was driving home. No chauffeur, no cameras. Just his own hands on the wheel and the soft hum of an old soul playlist filling the quiet. The city lights faded behind him, replaced by open roads and pine trees. The kind of silence that doesn't demand answers, it lets them arrive on their own. His phone buzzed again. Rachel's text. "CNN wants an interview tonight." He typed back one word. Declined. He wasn't chasing the moment. He was grounding again. 2 hours later, the car rolled into a quiet neighborhood in Atlanta where porch lights still meant home and neighbors still waved. His mother's house looked the same. White fence, a wind chime made from old keys, and that smell of fried okra drifting through the open window. She met him at the door before he could even knock. No questions, no ceremony, just a hug that lasted longer than words. "I saw you on the news," she whispered. "You stayed calm, just like your daddy used to." Marcus smiled, tired but at peace. "He taught me that dignity's louder than shouting." She nodded, eyes glistening. "And now the world knows it too." They sat on the porch as dusk melted into night. Cicadas hummed. The wind carried the faint echo of airplanes above, steady, distant, free. His mother turned to him, voice soft but certain. "You didn't just take your seat back, baby. You made space for everyone else." Marcus looked up at the sky, calm, infinite, unclaimed. "That's the plan, Ma," he said quietly. "That's always been the plan." 2 months later, Marcus stood backstage at a global leadership summit in Geneva. His name was everywhere on banners, press walls, invitations. Marcus Reed, the man who changed Flight 217. The host's voice echoed through the auditorium. "Please welcome the CEO who reminded the world that equality isn't policy, it's posture." Thunderous applause followed. Cameras flashed. The crowd rose to its feet. Marcus walked to the podium slowly, deliberately. No script in his hand, just a small pin on his lapel. The Aurea Air logo crossed with a golden wing. He waited until the applause softened, then spoke. "They keep calling it the Flight 217 incident," he said. "But for me, it was just another day when someone decided I didn't belong." The room went still. "What changed wasn't me," he continued. "It was who was watching. And maybe that's what justice really is, truth with witnesses." "Oh," he paused, scanning faces from every nation, leaders, journalists, students, skeptics. "I didn't come here to collect an award. I came to return it to the people who filmed, who spoke up, who refused to stay silent." He held up the glass trophy, clear as air, then placed it on the stage floor instead of the podium. Dignity doesn't need a pedestal, it just needs space. The audience was silent, that rare silence of respect, not absence. Then someone began to clap. And then everyone. Marcus bowed his head slightly, whispered into the mic, almost private. "I didn't set out to be a symbol, I just wanted to sit down." It landed heavier than any speech could. He stepped away from the lights, off the stage, leaving the award behind. And in that simple act, his silence spoke louder than the applause ever could. 6 months later, the world had moved on, or at least it thought it had. But for Marcus Reed, everything still began the same way it had on Flight 217. A boarding pass, a quiet walk down the jet bridge, and a single seat 2 amperes. The same number, different flight, different shy. The attendant at the gate smiled nervously when she saw his name flash on the manifest. "Mr. Reed," she said softly, "it's an honor." He smiled back, gentle. "The honor's in how you treat the next person after me." When he entered first class, passengers glanced up, some with curiosity, some with recognition. A young black man sitting in 2B straightened, whispering, "You're him, the guy from the video." Marcus nodded, setting his briefcase down. "Just a traveler today." The engines purred as people settled in. The captain's voice came over the intercom, female, confident, warm. "Welcome aboard Aurea Flight 302. Today's flight is fully staffed under the new Equality Takes Flight initiative. On behalf of our team, thank you for choosing dignity in the sky." Applause rippled through the cabin. Mia, now a full purser, walked by, her badge gleaming. She smiled. "Everything's on schedule, sir." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "You're the one running it." He looked out the window as the plane began to taxi. Clouds moved like slow waves. Somewhere above them, there was still the same endless blue he'd once had to fight for. Across the aisle, an older white man adjusted his tie, then leaned over hesitantly. "Mr. Reed, I watched that flight. I showed it to my son. It changed how we see things." Marcus turned to him, not prideful, just present. "Good. Then it did its job." The wheels lifted from the ground. The cabin tilted toward the horizon. Outside, sunlight filled the window, gold, pure, infinite. Marcus took a breath and said quietly, not to anyone, but to the sky itself, "You don't need to film justice. When it's real, it leaves a seat open for the next soul." He closed his eyes as the clouds swallowed the world below. No noise, no spotlight, just peace. The same peace that had always been waiting above the noise. And for the first time since Flight 217, Marcus Reed wasn't proving anything. He was simply flying, right where he belonged.